Denise Gough about her time on a spinoff that was canceled after a $30 million pilot was filmed. She was going to be in Bloodmoon, one of many GOT spinoffs meant to be made before House of the Dragon, but it never got past its expensive pilot. In this video, we'll discuss what she had to say about why Bloodmoon was canceled, and some other GOT shows in development. First off, why was the spinoff canceled? You'd think a spinoff would automatically take off, but this one didn't. So what went wrong? Why did HBO decide to be the best for a spinoff from Game of Thrones and quickly change its mind? Well, looking at the history of the House of the Dragon will give you a better idea of why. This first part tells us how House of the Dragon got to be on TV. The second part will go into more detail about the characters. THR's got a lot to say about Bloodmoon and its story about how House of the Dragon came to be. According to the executives and creatives interviewed for the feature, HBO's decision to move forward with a long night TV show came from a genuine desire to do something different. Even though it seems apparent that we'd want more of what made Game of Thrones great, we can't blame HBO for wanting to change things right after the finale. Up next, what did Denise Gough have to say about the almost spin-off? Gough shared that when the production didn't go forward, she was devastated, but just accepted that it wasn't meant to be. But after this opportunity left, another one knocked on the door not long after. That's how she became known as a star for the popular Star Wars spin-off. She added that this role in Andor suited her much better than the role in Bloodmoon would have. Denise also said that the same channel's gone on to make another more successful GOT spin-off, so it's clear she doesn't regret how things turned out. Who knows? She might feature in a new spin-off in the future. It's not just her though. Even George R.R. Martin thought the spin-off would be too hard to film. Why? Well, because it's set during the Long Night. That's a period even Martin didn't explore in the books. The plot would have centered around a wedding and the history of the White Walkers, but it was a difficult assignment, that's for sure. Followed by not enough source material for the plot. Ryan Condal shared that HBO didn't want to just make a sequel about the War for the Throne. They wanted to do something so different that everyone would be amazed. They chose the Long Night instead because of that. Even though wanting to blow our minds is a good goal for a story, Bloodmoon had trouble doing so. Why? Well, Martin didn't give it enough story runway. Martin's books have almost nothing to do with the Long Night. It's only mentioned in passing. Even then, it's known to be a story that can't be trusted. This means that Goldman had a lot of freedom in making the show's plot, themes, and twists. We can still see why that sounds good. Even HBO's vice president of drama said that tonally the spin-off felt very sophisticated and intelligent. Plus, through it, they could explore disenfranchisement through colonialism and extremism. Moving on to when Bloodmoon was finally put on hold. In the end, HBO agreed, and the Bloodmoon pilot was put on hold. The chairman of Warner Brothers added that the show didn't have the same magic as the original series pilot. Even though no one says it directly in the piece, everyone agrees that Martin's ideas made Game of Thrones so famous in the first place. HBO seems ready to hear what the original creator of this vast world has to say if he's still around and wants to be involved. And sure enough, House of the Dragon was one of the two original ideas that Martin brought to the network. The other was the Tales of Dunk and Egg, which has also been picked up. Now let's look at the Game of Thrones shows that are currently in development. As the streaming wars continue, it becomes more and more essential to have solid ground to build on. This makes sense because Martin's world building's so rich and detailed that it could be used to tell many stories. HBO announced they'd be making a new series about Kit Harington's character Jon Snow, after he had to betray and kill Daenerys Targaryen and was sent beyond the wall. Given that he came from the Targaryen family, most of us thought he should have been king under the Seven Kingdoms' more monarchy-based political system. There's a lot to learn about his bittersweet farewell beyond the wall. There's room to bring back other loved Starks, maybe once Arya figures out what's west of Westeros. There's also a clear chance to show more of Tormund Giantsbane, since he's a key member of Jon's group of wilding allies. Not to mention Tales of Dunk and Egg. Tales of Dunk and Egg's based on a series of short stories by George R.R. Martin. The Hedge Knight, The Sworn Sword, and The Mystery Knight are the three Dunk and Egg stories published. The stories take place about 90 years before the events of Game of Thrones. They aren't as serious or epic as the main series, but they're still interesting. It's about Dunk, a hedge knight who becomes Sir Duncan the Tall, Lord Commander of the Kingsguard, and Egg, his squire, who'll become King Aegon V Targaryen. And as we all know, he'll also rule Westeros one day. Martin wants to publish anywhere from 6 to 12 novellas. In the past, he's played down the idea idea of a movie version coming out before the books are done. That's still a long way off since he's still working on The Winds of Winter. Let's learn more about an animated series and 9 voyages. Since January 2021, the first steps have been taken to make an animated spin-off for adults based on Game of Thrones. The animated extras talk about parts of Westeros' history, so this idea isn't new. But this show will have a much more enormous scope than GOT. Given how much work goes into making this series, it's easy to see why an animated show might be appealing. For example, if they were animated, dragons and dire wolves would be easier to put on screen. The animated spin-off has a similar tone to the original show. 9 Voyages is another prequel to Game of Thrones in the works. It could be a spin-off of a spin-off. The show will be about Corlys Velaryon, the sea snake. In House of the Dragon, Steve Toussaint plays Corlys Velaryon. HBO is making a show about his great voyages, which shows that they think he'll be a big hit. Most wouldn't have gone as far as the sea snake did across the oceans. It went to parts of Essos that we're familiar with and parts of Essos that aren't as well known, like Yaiti, and made a lot of money along the way. Brian Heller helped make HBO's Rome's part of the creative team. If Corlys gets as popular as HBO hopes, this new show could be moved up. Coming up, 10,000 Ships. The story of Princess Nymeria of the Rhines being turned into a spin-off. 1,000 years before the events of Game of Thrones, the Valyrian freehold destroyed the Rhoynar. This forced Nymeria to lead her people to safety and freedom. It's said that she told 10,000 ships to sail down the Rhine and away from Essos. The number may be exaggerated, but it was still many ships and a long journey. Nymeria and her fleet went on a long journey to find a new safe place. They had to leave Nath because of disease, which took them many years before settling in Dorne. Eventually, they were successful, and Dorne became a principality ruled by princes and princesses instead of kings and queens. Nymeria's story is one of the most legendary in Westeros' history. Arya's dire wolf, named after the princess, is a link to Game of Thrones. Amanda Siegel, who wrote Person of Interest, will write 10,000 Ships, but no one else on the team's been named yet. Finally, Flea Bottom. The Red Keep in King's Landing was often a big part of the show, but this spin-off will be set in Flea Bottom. It's a slum where most of the city's brothels and less than savory drinking places are located. It was known for being poor and dangerous, but Davos Seaworth, Gendry, and other important Game of Thrones characters came from there. It could be clearer what kind of story would be told in Flea Bottom since it wouldn't be based on any of Martin's other books, but that means there are many ways to go and show a different side of life in Westeros. HBO's looking at all the possible ways to make spin-offs of Game of Thrones and wants to make more in the next few years. And on that note, that's a wrap for this video. What do you think of Bloodmoon being canceled? Do you think the show should have gotten a chance? Also, which of these spin-offs is most likely to take off? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.